Coming up next, Sitting at 30 takes you downtown for the weekly luncheon meeting of the City Club of Portland. Live weekly coverage of City Club is made possible in part by TCI and is produced through the facilities of Portland Cable Access. Now we join the City Club for this week's program.
Good afternoon. I'm Lloyd Anderson, President of City Club. Welcome to our program today. Today we focus on the status and challenges ahead for the Portland Public Schools with Superintendent Benjamin Canada. On Friday, September the 24th, join us for an intriguing program on urban design for Portland, featuring our own Patty Tillett, principal with Zimmer Gunsel Frasca, developer John Carroll, and Gary Papers, chair of the Urban Design Committee for the American Institute of Architects. The panel will be moderated by Randy Gregg, architect critic with the Oregonian. The meeting will be at the Multnomah Athletic Club. Please note the change in location. The annual fund. All of you received in this week's mail a letter requesting you support this year's annual fund. You have a chance to have your gift doubled this year. A President's Challenge gift in the amount of $3,500 has been established to match every new gift of $25 or more. Please do your part in helping us reach the goal. Our board host today, seated at the head table, is Harriet Watson, President-elect of City Club and Director of Public Affairs for Reed College. She will ask the first question of our speaker. Following Harriet's question, we will open the program to questions from members of City Club. Please limit your question to 30 seconds, no speeches, with a microphone in the center of the building here. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part because of corporate underwriting of CH2M Hill, Weyerhaeuser, Pacific Care of Oregon. We're very grateful for their support. Ben Canada came to Portland a little over a year ago as Superintendent of Public Schools for Portland. This is his second appearance before the club. In the past several months, he's had an opportunity to present to the legislature the needs of the district, and he's had a chance to start making his mark within the district. In talking to teachers, there's a refreshing optimism that Dr. Canada is listening and willing to make changes that improves the system. But the source of money for schools in Oregon has shifted dramatically in the last several years from local to state funding. And with that, the power to call the shots. And the funding for the Portland system has been seriously hurt in the process. Lest one think that the schools for Portland are picked on or that the practices of the legislature in 1999 have changed much, I'm reminded that at one time a few years back that for every dollar that other cities in the state got from gas tax, Portland got 50 cents. Ultimately, that was equalized. Funding for statewide for schools is more complex, and the needs of the district vary. And given the scale of the rebate of state income taxes, I'm not persuaded that the legislature is a true believer that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. But out of the session came some local options for financing that are now available, which should be of considerable interest. Dr. Canada comes to us after 31 years in education and over 26 of them in administration. A native of Louisiana, his education included an undergraduate degree from Southern University, a master's in education from the University of Washington, and a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Texas at Austin. He most recently came from Atlanta School District, where his focus as superintendent was on higher standards and expectations for students. With all the serious cuts he's had to face here in Portland, he continues to be a strong supporter of arts and music as a part of basic education for students. I am honored to introduce Ben Canada. Ben?
Well, good afternoon, and first of all, let me say to Lloyd, thank you for that wonderful introduction. You covered some highlights of issues that we hope that everyone will take back. That has to do with the change in funding and at the same time the increased responsibilities and obligations that everyone has on public education. So thank you for that introduction. To President-elect Harriet, it's been a pleasure to sit with you. I'm looking forward to the follow-up meeting with Reed College on some issues that we can work together on. So it was exciting to be between two wonderful individuals who have so much to offer. You know, it's been about 9 months since I was here before, and I talked about a lot of things in that 9-month period. Laid out some very ambitious issues, got really excited, and while I've never gone through this experience, I guess it would kind of be like my wife explained to me when she told me about our first child, our expecting first child, and how we were all pumped and ready to go and do all of these things. And then as we were in Group Health Hospital in Seattle, and we were going through the delivery process, and she says, "We hell," you know. But now, you know, we are happy about it, and she doesn't talk about the pain that much. We talk about the wonderful daughter that came, and I remember the doctor had told us, because it was before they could really tell you, that it was a boy, and I'd gone out and I'd gotten little buck shoes and painted the room blue, and you know, had blue carpet put in and all those wonderful things that you were told to do, and got the football. And when we were there, and I said to my wife, "Here he comes," and the doctor said, "And there she is." Well, in the 9 months of all of the ambitions that I had, some things came as we expected, and others came with much wonderful, pleasant surprises. I am as happy today with my daughter as I was 24 years ago, and I am as happy today with the staff that I have had the opportunity to work with for the outstanding job that they have done. And I'd like to start this off before I talk about accomplishments and the year and anything else. I want to start off by saying the staff that I inherited, the board that brought me here, and the new board members that have joined that have given me great support, great vision, great wisdom, and this community can be proud of them. So please join with me in giving the staff and the board a wonderful round of applause. Thank you. I decided it would be appropriate to report back to you on the wonderful things that we have been involved in, our accomplishments, talk about our priorities for next year, and then summarize it with what you can do. I think the business people in this room know that I very seldom go somewhere without having a homework assignment. And so we have a homework assignment for you at the end that we will be sharing with you in terms of what you can do to help us. You know, I just left one of the most invigorating experiences that I've ever had the pleasure of being involved in. I knew some of it would happen because I'd done something similar, but you know, every time you do something, it's different. I left people like Jim Francisconi, Diane Lynn, Al Jubitz, all sorts of other folks from university, from SEI, from principals, from teachers, from parents, non-parents, all of whom have come together, 33 of them, to ask the question, when we think about Portland Public Schools and Portland, Oregon, for the foreseeable future, the next 5, 7, 10 years, what do we want to have happen? I can tell you that you can be proud of the people in that room. The first evening, at one point, I wasn't sure we weren't going to have to get a referee. Every issue that we could talk about was being represented from every angle that you could possibly imagine in your minds right now. It was being brought to the table. But if you're going to have progress, you have to do it that way. You have to be open and honest about all issues, and then begin to come up with an idea of how you'd want to solve it, and then get others involved in how we're going to do that. I wanted to start off with that because it's important for you to understand that we must have a plan. Absent a plan, we obviously will get somewhere, but is it where we want to go? We do have a plan, but it is not a plan currently in existence that involves all of Portland in its creation. That's what we want, because it's not Portland Public Schools' plan, it's Portland's plan for the education of the children of Portland today, tomorrow, and the foreseeable future. Now, for me, this is a great time of the year. My staff has heard this. I told the principals about it yesterday. I sent the board an email about this, but I have to tell you about this because I'm still kind of jittery about it. How many of you in this room can recall your first day of school? If you do, raise your hand. Okay. Now, if you enjoyed that first day of school, even though you were a little bit nervous, raise your hand. All right. We had a mixed crowd. Well, I look forward to the first day of school every year. I mean, it's not an experience that I don't want to relive. I want every child to have that same experience. And for those of you who didn't have a great first day of school, I wish you would come with me next year and go through that first day of school experience so you can see the joy that comes from it. But you'd also probably need to do what I did. I laid out my clothes. I had my shoes all lined up. I knew what socks I was going to wear. I made sure the tie was matching. And somebody said, well, did you pack a lunch? Well, if I'd had a lunch pail, I probably would have packed a lunch. I was excited. I was pumped. I was ready. And then I said, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. And then I couldn't sleep. I was so nervous. And I wasn't nervous because I thought things were going to go wrong. I was nervous because I couldn't wait for that first experience, because that's what we want every child to have. I got on the bus, and the first little child, his name was HP, and he's about really little kid. He has a special disability. He was a little nervous about getting on the bus with big guy and the head of special ed who was riding with me. And his dad took him, and we got him on the bus. And he wasn't sure he wanted to stay on the bus with us. And so I said, can you fasten your seatbelt? Yes, I can fasten my seatbelt. And so we got him engaged in fastening his seatbelt. And by the time he did that, he was okay. Dad said, bye, HP. Mom was standing on the outside, bye, HP. Bus takes off and we go. And so we began to talk. We talked. And finally we arrive at the school. And he hops off, he unbuckles his belt, and he gets to the door. And there are cameras, there are principals, teachers, kids, everybody, whoa, what's going on? And all of a sudden, HP says, he grabbed my hand, and he wouldn't turn it loose. So we walk in, and I said, HP, it's okay now. I want to be with the big guy. I want to be protected. Well, it made me feel good, but it also made me feel much more relaxed when a teacher with the principal walked up to HP, one on either side, and said, welcome to Rose City Park. This is your new school, and you're going to be very happy here. His face just kind of lit up. He went in, they took him into one of the centers, HP turned my hand loose, and except for when I said bye and he said, "Can I give you a hug?" HP didn't worry about me or anything else. That's what we want every child to experience in Portland Public Schools. Not just the first day of school, but every day of school throughout their entire career. With that in mind, let me go back and talk about some of the things we talked about last year and some of the accomplishments. I'm sure that some of you recall and looked at what we said we were going to do and said, "That's pretty ambitious." Well, it was ambitious, but we had a secret weapon. A secret weapon that I'm not sure that everybody in Portland has an appreciation for. The secret weapon was you as partners and the most professional staff, and that includes principals, central administrators, support staff, teachers, custodians, cooks, bus drivers, you name it, of any state that I've been in, and I've worked in 8 states in the field of education. Never had that kind of professional staff. That's a huge secret weapon, but I don't want it to be secret anymore. I want people to know and to appreciate the value that comes from that kind of dedication. Now, how can I make that statement? What do I have to back it up? Well, you've got a report card on your tables. If you wanted to look at academic gains, you'd have to say 1998, 1999 clearly was a good year. Not just a good year, it was a great year. Didn't happen by itself. Didn't happen just by children miraculously doing something. It happened with a specific goal in mind, our clear focus on our core function, which is teaching and learning. Not for some children, but for all children. We made tremendous progress. You look at that, and we hope that you take that and you share it. It's clear that when you look at what we did, it's an average of 4% gain in nearly every grade, and in some cases it was as much as 9%, specifically if you look at 5th and 7th grade math. We think that's good, but it's not good enough. For you see, when we say we're going to be open and honest and addressing all of our issues, we are now taking that data and opening it up and looking at it. We are not proud of the progress of some of our minority students. We're very proud of some. If you look at the SAT, the Native American students score better than anybody in the district. We don't know why, but we need to find out. We do know that not that many Native American students take the SAT, which may account for the large gain. But we ought to know why. African American students are not doing well in many of our schools. Doing great in some. But we have to be honest about that, and we then have to work on coming up with specific plans that we can all be held accountable for in terms of what it is that needs to be done and how we'll accomplish doing that. I will also tell you that some of you and some of our parents, and rightfully so, have raised the question about, are we testing too much? Are we starting to teach to the test? My response to that is, we're also concerned about that, but we don't call it teaching to the test. We do say that we are teaching to a higher standard and that we have higher expectations for all children. Our goal is to raise the floor for those children who are struggling, and at the same time to raise the ceiling for those who are doing well. In the process of doing that, it means that we have to re-examine curriculum. It means that we have to look at the alignment of that curriculum. It means that we have to look at things that some people don't want to think about, because it honestly means that we can then start holding others accountable for actions. Our data says clearly, and I think this is, to me, a no-brainer, but unfortunately some people don't see it that way. Those students who got the highest scores had the best attendance. those students who had the lowest scores had the worst attendance. It's difficult to learn that which you have not been taught because you were not there. We need to hold parents much more accountable for the things that they do and don't do with regard to their child's education. When you look at Oregon as a whole, I will tell you that the educators across this state, under very adverse conditions, are continuing to make great progress. But for how long? We're known in this state for protecting and preserving that which is good, that which we believe has value not only today but in the foreseeable future. How long will we sit by and watch the underfunding, the lack of total commitment to the children of Oregon? It has to stop. It has to stop. You cannot say you value it and you want to preserve it when you allow it to deteriorate because you do not fund basic core materials, basic core supplies, and allow us to continue to be able to recruit and keep the best staff. There's no business in this room that would sit back and watch the competition upgrade its supplies, materials, upgrade the staff, give it training, and also provide incentives and other options to be able to just think sometime and expect to be competitive if they didn't join suit and actually do more. We're being asked to do all of that with less. That's not fair. And yet we see children who come pumped, primed, ready to learn every day. And they're counting on us. So I'm counting on you as the secret weapon this year. I found the secret weapon last year. And I have to tell you, you were part of that secret weapon. But I'm now looking for the super secret weapon. That, for me, means that in the 2 years of this biennium, we get together, we look at where the governor is, we look at where other leaders are, we ask tough questions, but we always keep one thing in mind. At the end of the day, if we enact this legislation, will it be good for children? If the answer is yes, then everybody in this room should get behind it and make it so. If the answer is no, then we should kill it, but at the same time, we should have an alternative. I support the governor's initiative at this point because it allows us to bridge the gap and then at the same time work for stabilized funding, not just in Portland, but across the entire state. We must have stable funding. Now, some people would say, well, why do you need more? Well, let's go back. One of the things we talked about last year was social promotion. We said we needed summer school. You don't just hold students back and don't do anything any different. We're very fortunate. Mayor Katz, City Council said, we'll fund summer school. Now, what did we learn from summer school? A number of things. One, we knew, but we needed to be able to prove it again. Class size makes a difference. In summer school, the class size, on average, was about 15. Students who had been unable to meet the benchmarks, the standards, came into summer school and they did it. My best example of that would be Mayor Katz visiting with me to Portsmouth Middle School. Sixth grader, not making it. The mayor says, well, tell me what you're doing. And he goes through this math problem. The time he finishes it, the mayor, in one of her true to form Vera moves, went, whew, over my head. It was astounding. the level of proficiency that the student was able to demonstrate. And no matter how you asked the question, he could respond because he had learned the process, he had learned the formula, he knew the details of the math that he had been asked to do. Now, what are our class sizes on average now? Now that we're not in summer school. It's not 15. It's not 20. It's not 25. If you go into the elementary schools, it's running about an average of 27 to 1. You go into middle schools, it's 30 to 32. High schools, it's 32 to 40. That's kind of somewhere in an average, which means that in high school you've got some classes at 40. Then you have some at, for example, a fourth year German. They may only have 12, but that's a specialized piece. We know it works with smaller classes, so why are we then asking teachers to create miracles? And I, sometimes get excited and disappointed with legislators who say, well, I'm just playing the devil's advocate when we ask these questions. Well, I'll tell you, the devil doesn't need any more advocates. He does a damn good job on his own, I mean, we just don't need that. And I would hope that none of you start playing the role of devil's advocate. If we do, we want to see if you got 3 6s in the back of your head. We are good. No, we're great in comparison to other urban systems in America. That's good news and that's bad news. It's good news because we perform. It's bad news because people expect for us to be able to sustain it with less. The more we do, well, you can do more, but you don't need any more. We ask you to work with us, to kill and put the devil to rest. Bring some angels on. Let children have a wonderful experience. And as they sit in a very few years where you're sitting as the leaders, that they will have an experience that will say, it was good, and I want that same spirit for the children who are coming behind me. They're counting on you. Another thing that we're very proud of in terms of accomplishments, we said we'd do surveys. Well, we did surveys. Got some very interesting pieces back. If you look at the report that is there, and by the way, we will be doing report cards on every school, every community will know exactly what's happening in their school. But when you look at just the system as a whole, 93% of our parents said, we believe that our child's school is a good one. 93%. 87% said they believe that children are learning what they really need to learn. 91% said they believe that the principal and the other staff at the school is doing a good job. Now, you don't have people saying that they believe their child's school is good and then say the staff and the principal are no good. We have great staff. They're committed. They need help. They also said something that you frequently hear is not the case. 91% said they believe that the people in the school listen to them. Now, that's their individual school. When I talk to parents and we look at the district as a whole, that number is not as high. People feel good about their individual schools, but as a system, they have some concerns. One of them, for example, is, as a system, you have not provided enough technology to students. How many of you remember about 5 years ago, some national speakers going around saying, in 10 years, 50% of the jobs that we know today will not exist? Anybody in this room ever heard that? Yeah. I didn't really believe it, even though I was being shown advanced technology, desks for computers about this size that would hold the whole Library of Congress on one side. I now believe that the job titles will change. They're changing so fast now. In the last 2 years, You hear more web this, web that, e-commerce. 5 years ago, we weren't talking about that. A few people were. We must change that which we expect children to be able to know and to do. But it also means we have to give them the equipment and the supplies, and we have to retrain teachers and administrators, and we have to also demand more from the universities in terms of what it is that they're sending to us with their graduates. We're fortunate. We have people at the universities here who work very closely with us, and we're excited about that. We talked about accountability. I told you that we were having difficulty with communications. We were having difficulty with one computer being able to talk to the other one. We had lots of data. In fact, when we were talking last night about strengths of the district and weaknesses of the district, and while I can't tell you everything that we talked about because I'm not supposed to talk about it yet until we finalize it, I can give you some generalities because these are common knowledge. Strength, lots of data. Weakness, lots of data, because they don't talk to each other in ways that they should. Well, we've got a board that had the vision and they had the will to withstand the pressure from some who would say, you cannot invest in technology. This board said, we must invest in technology, and we now have a new system coming. It's a new system that will allow me at my desk and a board member to plug on, a teacher to log on, to look at student progress, to look at finances, to look at what's happening in terms of food, you name it, we can do it. We should have been able to do it. And we could do it with lots of man hours or person hours. We can't afford that anymore. We must be able to use technology and get it instantly. We said that we would look at restructuring how we do business. Well, I'm happy to tell you that wonderful staff in support with wonderful partners, the county in particular right now, we are making arrangements, the final deal to have board authorization on, to sell and or lease a part of the big orange building, 90% of which is all something other than administration. People see it and they think it's, oh, that big building. Actually, it's less than 10% that's people for, it's all other things. But we're selling part of that to them. We've made a commitment to save $10 million over the next 4 years in the way we do business, either through leasing or efficiencies in our facilities. That's ambitious. But we have to make the adjustment. We cannot keep doing some of the things that we do, and at the same time, we have to give staff the resources to do the things they do well, the ability to do it even better. We talked about administration. We've reduced the administrative cost. The number of central administrators is less today than it was when we took office. We deliberately cut central administration and administrative support to stay away from classrooms. And if we had it to do all over again, we'd do it again. Our audit, however, did point out something, and some of you in business know this. You can save too much too quick and become inefficient. We cut too much administration, and therefore we were not able to respond to certain critical functions, and people did not forgive us for that because they expect for you to be able to respond. And when you don't, they assume that you're ineffective. Well, we just had cut too much, and so we're looking at how to restructure, redo jobs, and a lot of our jobs are different from what they were last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And we will continue to do that while at the same time staying focused on teaching and learning. The audit also said, and we talked about not just financial accountability. I started by saying it would take me 2 days to get a message to all of the sites that was handwritten. That's just not acceptable. Well, a lot of progress has happened since then. We've now put laptop computers in the hands of every principal. And that was a funny thing, we would put computers in schools, but we wouldn't put a computer in the principal's office where they could talk to each other and talk to us and give us data. We've changed that. And it wasn't because we didn't know that we needed to do that. But it was because the money was being cut so fast and it was so deep, it made logical sense to do that then, to save class size. But again, you get to the level of inefficiency. Our principals talk to each other, we email each other, we talk, we communicate. But there's another factor that I want to talk about today, and that's again talking about secret weapons, partnerships. People who believe in you, believe in children, but also believe in themselves and their company's goals and missions of really being active partners in the community. We talked about the lack of communications and the fact that I don't know of any other entity that has a budget as large as ours, over 6,000 employees, that had one person in their communications department and expected to get their message out. Doesn't logically ring true. Well, Portland General Electric came through. They said, we're going to step up. We're going to live with our commitment. We're going to support the goals of Portland Public Schools. We believe in the children. We believe in this community. We're going to step up. They gave us $200,000 to help us bring on another person, to help us do printing. And if you looked at your placemats, you will see part of just simple little things that make everybody feel good. Those are so warm. They make me feel good. Well, Portland General Electric printed that. They said, we can take those. Those were hanging up by my office. You know, every 2 weeks I get new art. You know, and where are the folks from Portland General Electric? I know they're, stand up. I want you guys, really, because I am, you know, come on, don't be bashful. Thank you, thank you. I mean, we have lots of partners, and I probably shouldn't have done that because some other partners can say, you didn't recognize me at the club. I apologize. But it's the concept that we're talking about. We can make placemats. We can do covers. We can do all sorts of things. We can even put a little message. Once you come up with your mission statement, and we're working on a new mission statement, we'll put it on things like that and send it. Everybody will know what your mission statement is. There'll be no situation where anybody in Portland, not Portland Public Schools, there will be no situation where somebody in Portland won't know what your mission statement is. They'll know how to help. So we were excited about that. But it was more than just the money. It was the ideas. It was helping us look at, to re-examine what we do, how we do it, to make sure that we're able to move forward. Our accountability, again, is not just from the standpoint of dollars, but our accountability is there for children, for teaching and learning. New math. Well, it's not new math. There was somebody who said we had this new fandangled. It is the most consistent math program that the National Science Foundation has said works. For the first time in the history of our school system, teachers and administrators, elementary, middle, and high, all three came together and said, we want this one. We didn't have the money, but through the county and our sale and lease of some space, we have a new math adoption for the first time in over 10 years. Teachers are excited about it. They came in early, they worked, we're giving them professional development. It's not completely in place, but we've worked with them in collaboration on a specific function, specific goal, and we will see better math scores as a result of having the time to implement and the resources to put in the children's hands and materials for parents to know how to help their child. We're working this year on a new science adoption. We haven't done science in a long time. But it's more than just doing the adoption. We also have to upgrade our science labs, and we have to get the technology, the software. I was at the Willamette University not long ago, Carol Matarazzo and I, and they were showing us their latest lab. And I looked at it and I said to Carol, some of our labs look better. And the young lady heard me, she said, that's right. But you don't have the technology that we have. We don't have the expense of trying to store chemicals and do all of the other things the old way, because that's not how we do science now. We can do every experiment on a computer. We can create it all. And that's what business is looking for. They want to do it. We must do that. And I saw a number of you shaking your heads. We're still, though, and we still need Bunsen burners, but we don't need them as much. It's not the same education setup that you had. It has to change. Our relationship with the city, our relationship with the county, our relationships with business are part of the fabric that we are trying to weave in terms of creating a new Portland Public Schools. And some people say, why would you want to create a new one? Well, if we all kept the old one, it would be put in a box and it would be buried. Our children are new. They come every year new, with new ideas. And each grade as they progress, they've learned new things. They expect more. We must have that relationship. And so again, we want to say to the mayor, to the city council, we want to say to Chair Stein, to the commissioners, thank you. We want to say to you as business leaders, business partners, thank you for what you have done to make sure that our students have the opportunity and they have the ability to do that which is good and right, not just in their eyesight, but in your eyesight as the individuals who hold us all accountable for reaching the new standards. Not to teach to the test, but to raise the bar, raise the expectation, provide the support, and therefore ensure success. Now I'm going to talk about one other piece for me, and I want to make sure we leave time for the questions. But there's one passion. I have lots of them. I really do. But there's one, and I really need all of your help on. And I know that some of you didn't have a great experience on the first day because you raised your hand, you remembered, but you didn't raise your hand saying it was a great experience. But this is something that everybody in this room at some point had some success with, and that was the arts. Whether it was drawing, painting, dance, singing, playing in the band, in the orchestra, speech, debate, you were able to express yourself. How many of you remember making your handprint in plaster of Paris, or taking a piece of clay and making a little cherry pie? I mean, I have a cherry pie for my daughter, and it weighs about a ton, but it's special. I have a picture of me that my little daughter drew as a preschooler, then I have another in first grade and third grade. You keep those kinds of things. Somewhere, because of the cuts, we had to diminish the availability of the arts for all children. Now, some children get it, but is it fair for some children to have it and for others not to have access to it? I don't think so. I don't think that Portland believes that. I clearly don't think that Oregonians believe that, but yet it's happening. We need your help. I grew up in the segregated South. There were certain things we weren't expected to be able to do. But to show you the value of expectations, even in spite of lack of resources, there's certain things that just make you feel good when you try it and you're successful. I would always sing in the choir, always sing in the choir. A little kid in church, you know, we always had our little parts in the play at church. I mean, first speaking was at church. I felt like I could sing, but I didn't think I was really good. State competition comes. There's another fellow who's supposed to sing the solo, the baritone solo. He gets sick. And my choir director comes to me and she says, Ben, I want you to do it. I know you can do it because I've heard you sing the song. When he'd be up, I would hear you. He didn't know I was listening, but I heard you. I can't do that. You can do it, Ben. Come on, let me show you. So we went over and we practiced. And, I remember the song, Roll, Jordan, roll. I did it. They judged me the best in the state. I couldn't believe it. I still have that little certificate. I want other children to have that same experience when they think they can't do it. Right now, back at the hotel where we're working on our strategic plan, there's my name tag that's going around. And I don't doodle a lot because I'm not really good at the doodling things. I mean, I can't understand what I draw. You know, it's true abstract. But a young girl who was sitting there, she was a student at Roosevelt High School, she asked me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just kind of drawing a few faces here and there." She said, "Can I add something to it?" She took my piece and she started working on it. Then somebody else said, "Can I do something on that?" So by the end of the day, all 33 people on that one little card will have added their piece. They can change something, they can add something, they can put color on it. But the idea is that it's a shared piece of art. We need, the children need your help to put the arts back in Portland Public Schools. You had it. Why wouldn't we give it to them? It's a passion, but it also allows you to achieve in an arena where others think that you cannot be successful. We have a great school system here. You have something to be proud of. The children need to be able to touch the secret weapon. They've got the staff. They know they have the staff. Some of them know that they have partners in the business community. They need you. Now the final piece, and I know my time is up. A homework assignment. Every school in our community has a school improvement plan. Now this is not a difficult homework assignment, but it does require you to actively get out and do something. All this month, every school in our city is doing a state of their school address to their community. They're looking at their current school improvement plan, they're looking at the new data, and we couldn't do it any earlier because we couldn't get the data from the state. They're now figuring out what do we need to do to change that which we are doing, because here's the district goal, which is the state goal and the national goal, and here's where my school is. How do we get from here to here and hopefully to there? We want you to go and look at that. We want you to go and look at the things that they're saying that they need help on. Every one of them, when they finish this process, will have a sheet that will say, here are the things that we need support on to achieve our goals. And if you can provide that, do it. If you can't and you know somebody else that can do it, do it. Assignment, go visit a school. Don't listen to the media. Don't look at the paper. Don't listen to the radio. Listen to Lars, but listen to Lars with a different point of view, because you have been to the school. You know for yourself. Read the paper. Listen to the TV news, but listen with a different point of view. Why? You've been there. You know for your best teacher. Homework assignment again? Go to our school. Look at the school improvement plan. Bring something to support the arts, though. If it's nothing but some paper, some construction paper, some glue, some paint, some clay, $1, whatever, but bring the enthusiasm that goes with, I can draw, I can paint, I can sing, I can play. I will close with this one. The second bus I rode on the first day was another young lady, middle school, disability. The director of special ed said, well, what did you do this summer? She said, I played the clarinet. And she's in a very special program. She's not expected to be able to do that. She said, the first time I picked it up, it just worked. Bob Crebo said, well, you know, I played it for 4 years. I was never great, but I sure enjoyed it. She said, well, I'll play it longer than you, and I enjoy it, and I'm good. That's what we want. That's what we want. Lord, I know that Harriet has a question. I'm looking forward to the questions because I know I've got lots of secret weapons.
Thank you, Ben. A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with a young woman from Massachusetts whose school had just scored first in that state's Certificate of Mastery exams. I congratulated her, and she made a really sour face and said, "We lost a whole year preparing for that test." You mentioned in your remarks teaching to the test and concerns that you have, but just for a moment, I'd like you to pretend that it's just the two of us.
Okay.
The 100 people in front of us have gone away, and you can trust that whatever you say, I will not share. Because at my age, I probably won't remember it.
I've been there, okay.
What do you think about certificates of mastery and what they say about students learning to learn and learning to think?
Great question, Harriet. I support the certificates of initial mastery and the certificates of mastery and the concept of what it is that they're asking us to have children be able to do. I have difficulty, however, when we didn't think through the complete process. We had the state board and the legislature coming up with the certificate, and at the same time we had a reduction in the resources that would allow us to do it. And the students, for example, are still asking the question, okay, I have it, so what? Nobody's asking me about it. Do I get it as a sign-off on my diploma? Do I get a special certificate? So I asked the state. They didn't know. That's up to us. Well, it shouldn't be that if it's a statewide mandate, we ought to all come up with a value that ensures that it's there. But let me say something else. I think the whole issue of a really liberal arts type education where children are taught to think, to discover, and to be able to show that they know something in many different forms and not just one or two formats of a test is what our goal is. And that's why I say we're teaching to higher standards, but we're teaching children to think. We're teaching them to discover the whole love of learning and to be able to show it in many different forms.
Elaine Cogan. On one hand, we want to congratulate you. You have opened up the system in 1 year that has not been done in decades. So thank you, and I thank you for many of us. On the other hand, and I'd like you to you have commented on the strategic planning process,
Yes.
which according to the Oregonian, is being conducted secretly in a hotel in Vancouver. 33 people who are not only sworn to secrecy, because you have alluded to that you cannot talk about the substance of it, but basically are not going to be allowed to talk in public about the results, except everything that they agree to in lockstep. In other words, this seems to be a disconnect. How do you expect us, as the public, to accept whatever comes out of that when the process has been secret and behind closed doors and all the things that you and the rest of us do not support?
I'm so glad you raised the question so that I have the opportunity to let everybody know it really is not in secret. Before we got together and I selected the 33, there were over 400 individuals who said, I want to be on the core team. But you cannot have 400 people in one room to do that. You have to select, but you also have to make sure you have the entire community there. There were over 700 people who came to, I believe it was 7, what we call speak out sessions, where we posted notices, come talk to us. Tell us what you like about Portland Public Schools. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you'd like to see. We are taking all of that information, we're sitting down, but probably more important than all of that, what we didn't want was somebody not to feel like they could really challenge and say what's on their mind, and for fear that the next day they were going to be blasted in the media for being racist, or because when we talked about diversity, for example, it got very interesting. But nobody was afraid to speak up. And so that's the kind of thing that we wanted to deal with. But, and I was about to say probably the most important thing, everything that comes out of there will be put out for everybody to interact on. It is not something that I will recommend to the board, just they gave me a recommendation and therefore I rubber stamp it, give it to the board and it's done. We will have hearings, we'll have focus groups on different parts of it. The mission statement itself is up for review once it's done. It will be completely available to the entire community to look at. But we really did need to have the opportunity for people to truly say how some parts of our community feel about how some children learn or don't learn, how we should spend money, etc. And I defend that piece in terms of that, but I want you to know we haven't changed in terms of the openness, and we won't change. So I'm so glad you asked the question.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Mandel, and I'm a City Club member, and I also want to thank you. And I am a pleased parent of 2 children in the Portland Public Schools in middle school. Before you came here, my daughters and I read an article about you, and that is going to be my question. And the article said that you had abolished recess. And I need to know your stance on recess, because tonight at dinner, I am going to be asked that question. And I'm not moving till I get the answer.
Well, I don't want you to leave because I want you to know the truth. When I went to Atlanta, Atlanta had abolished recess. I don't know. There's not a student in Atlanta Public Schools who's in 12th grade now that has ever had recess. What they have had is organized physical education at every grade. They built special facilities. They had the money. They have hired trained physical education teachers. They teach them life skills in terms of life sports kinds of skills, games. They teach them square dance, all of the stuff we used to do. What they decided they didn't want to do was just take a ball and throw it out and say, go get the ball. They said, we want to teach you how to do it. Now, good teachers still, and even with that, good teachers still take children out because good teachers know there is also a time where children just need to be able to be free. I teach 1 day a month, and at every school that I've taught at, in the elementary, I've taken kids out on recess.
So will you be keeping recess in Portland Public
I have
Schools?
no intention of changing recess.
Thank you.
I will invite you to come and help me at recess because I'm dead tired at the end of recess.